In today's video, we will take a little bit of a deep dive to Next.js route handlers. We will learn how to use cookies, headers, redirects, dynamic route segments, and also we will learn how to get the request body in a post request. This is one of the most asked questions that I have gotten lately, so hopefully this video will be helpful for you. Without further ado, let's get started. So right here I have my terminal open, and let's start by creating a new Next.js application. And remember to select the yes for this experimental app directory. Okay, then I will open this up in VS Code. Okay, and something I like to do first thing whenever I create a new project is just to try to run it and see that everything is working. So let's start the dev server and go to the localhost 3000. And looks like we get the default application and everything is working great. So let's start with how we can use cookies inside of the route handlers. And what I'm going to do is open up the app folder and the API folder, and then create a new folder inside of the API folder called cookies. And inside of that folder, we will create the route.js file. And let's add just a little bit of code to see that we can access this route like this. So we just defined the get function in here and then just return kind of hello world response. So let's test this out. So I will save this. And next I will open up my Postman, because we are going to be making get and post requests to these API routes. It's just easier to test them out and see how they work with Postman. And if you're not familiar with Postman, it's a program that enables you to do all kinds of API requests with different kinds of parameters. So let's start by creating a new request, and the address is localhost 3000/API/cookies. So let's type that in like this. And over here, we want to use the get method, and let's send it out and see what we get. So it looks like we get an internal server error. So let's check the console. Okay, so looks like we forgot the new keyword for the response. So let's add that, save it, and try it again. Okay, now we get the correct message over here. So we can access the API route. Next, let's modify the cookies that we are sending with this request. So in Postman, I will go to the headers tab, and let's add a cookie header over here. And let's add a cookie called token. And let's say it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like this. So now this token cookie should be sent with the request whenever we are sending or clicking the send button. So now let's see how we can catch this cookie inside of our route handler. So inside the route.js, what I'm first going to do is import cookies from Next headers like this, and this enables us to access the cookies that we are getting with the request. Then inside the get function, we want to get a cookie store with that cookies function. So let's do that like this. And then if we want to get a cookie called token, all we have to do is define a variable and then call cookie store.get and give the name of the cookie we want to get like this. Now let's actually return this cookie in our response like this. Let's save it and go to the Postman and try to send this request. So we have in headers, we have the cookie header with the token 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we should get that as a response. So let's try it out. Okay, so we get your token is object. So one thing we forgot to do is call the value for this token, because this is an object with property value, and that value has the token value. So let's add over there token.value, and let's save it and switch to the Postman and try again. Okay, now we get the correct token. Your token is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is how we can get cookies from a request, but these are just read only. So if we want to modify the cookies, we need to return a new response with set cookie and then the cookie value we want to set it to. So let me just type it out and let's see it through together. Okay, so like this. So what I did here was add for this response an other parameter, which is an object. I added status 200, so the status will be 200. And also then in the headers property, we are saying that set cookie should be token equals then the token value, but then I added this modified text at the end of the token, so we can see if it actually works. So let me save this out and let's test it out. So I'll open my Postman, and inside here we have the cookie 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now if we send a new request, we can see that we got the correct text as expected. But then if we scroll up a little bit our headers, we can see that we got this cookie header up here, and the value for it is the cookie that we defined in the route handler. So that's how you can set cookies if you want, but if you just want to read them, you can use this cookie store to get all the cookies you want. Okay, so next let's see how to use headers with the route handlers. So again, I will create a new folder called headers, and inside of that folder I'll create the route.js file. And these headers work pretty much the same way as cookies does. So let me just type in the code and let's go it through together. Okay, so first we import headers from the next headers, then we define the get function, and inside of that, as we did with the cookies, we are getting a header list in this case by calling the headers function. And then from the headers we can get any header we want, and in this case let's get the host header. So if we check out the Postman, we can see that the host header is sent with the request. So let's get that and then just return it as a response over here. So let's test it out. I'll save this and open Postman. Let me create a new request. And the endpoint is /API/headers, like this. And yeah, let's see, we have the headers, and for the host header, it says it's calculated when a request is sent. So let's try it out. Let's send this, and looks like it returns the text. You made the request from localhost 3000, and that is our host, so that's correct. We could also get, for example, the user agent. Let's try it out. So I'm just gonna replace it here. And the text will be wrong, but that's okay, just to see that how it works. So let's send it, and looks like it gets the correct value for that header. Let me just make it back as host. Okay, so that's how you can get headers in the route handlers. And if we wanted to return the host header, for example, for the response, we can do it by adding a new parameter in the response. And let me just type it out and let's go through together then, like this. So I added the status 200 over here also, but on the line 9, we are setting the headers for the response, and we are saying that the host header equals the host header over here. So let's save it and try it out. So let's make a new request. It returns the correct response, but now if we look at the click over here next to the body, we can see the response headers in Postman. So let's click that and scroll up a little bit, and what do you know, looks like the host header is passed as expected. So that's how you can return headers with the response. So next, let's see how to do redirects with the route handlers. So let me create again a new folder called redirect, and inside of that the route.js. Then here we want to export the get function like this, and then inside of this get function we can just call redirect and say where we want to redirect. So let's say we want to redirect my website like this, and of course we need to import that redirect also. So let's add it up here, and it was from next navigation, like this. Let's save it and let's try it out. And for this, I will open up the browser and try it out over there so we can see the redirect in action. So it was API/redirect, like this. So I'll hit enter, and looks like it creates the redirect. So it's that easy to do redirects with route handlers. Next, let's take a look on the dynamic route segments and how we can get the route parameters to our route handlers. So let's again start by adding a new folder, and I will call this DRS, so dynamic route segments. Then I will create a new folder under that and use the brackets and slug inside of them. And then inside of that folder, we want to create the route.js file. So if you're familiar with Next.js routing, this syntax with brackets should be familiar for you. But if it's not, I have videos explaining that, so be sure to check those out from the channel. But for this route.js, let's add the get function also, like this. And let's for now return a new response, like this, and test this out that it's working. So I'll open up my Postman, create a new request, and go to the /API/DRS and and then here is the value that will be assigned for the slug over here. So let's just add foobar, like this, and send it, and we are getting the correct message. So let's see how we can modify this so that the message would return the value of this slug, so in this case foobar. First thing we want to do is to add another parameter for this get function, and it will be an object, and inside of that object we want to get the params variable, like this. So this params variable will have all the route parameters in it. So inside of here we can say let slug equals params.slug, like this. Or if we want to make it shorter, let's do it like that. So now we should have in this slug variable the value of foobar in this case. So let's just modify the message to have that slug value in it, like this. So I will save this and open the Postman and let's test it out. Looks like it's working, so it's returning the foobar. So what if we change this up, like this, send it, looks like it's working. And if you had more URL parameters in the route, then you could just have them defined over here and use them in the route handler as we are using the slug over here. Okay, then last, let's see how we can get a request body from a post request. So let me just again create a new folder in the API folder. Let's call it post data, and inside of it create the route handler, like this. And now, since we want to target the post request, let's export the post function over here, like this. Then for now, let's return a new response, like this, and test it out that it's working. So I'll open up my Postman. Let's create a new request, and the URL is /API/postData. And now that we are making a post request, we want to change this get to post, and let's send it away, and looks like it's working. So let's say we had a body, so we can define the request body in the body tab in Postman. And let's say in our body we have a name variable, and we wanted to return that name in the response. So let me just choose the data type in here. So we will be using raw, and it will be JSON. So I'll add some JSON over here. So let's say we have name equals Tuomo, like this. So now whenever we send this JSON will be sent as a request body or as a payload for this request. So let's switch to the VS Code and see how we can get that body from the request. So this is actually something that I used quite a lot of time to figure out, but it turned out to be easier than I expected. So if we want to define a body, we can get the request body from the request by calling request.json like this. And of course add await in front of it because it's a synchronous function. So like this. And now let's modify the message to return the name like this. And let's define the name variable. And it's of course body.name like this. Let's save it and test it out. So my name is Tuomo. Let's send it out. And looks like we are getting the correct value. Now if we change this up a little bit, it's still working. And of course, if we have other variables here, for example, website, like this, we could get these in the route handler like this. So let the website equals body.website like this. And let's modify the message like this, save it, and let's test it out. And it's working. So after all, it's that easy to get the body from the request. And if you're curious on why this works like this, we can actually find the answer from the documentation. So the request parameter that the get and post functions get is type of request. So if we open up the documentation for the request and scroll down over here a little bit, we should see .json function over here. And over here it says that returns a promise that resolves with the result of parsing the request body as JSON. So this is why we can get the body of the request with this .json function. I really hope that you found this video at least somewhat helpful, and if you did, I would highly appreciate it if you left a comment down below, like the video, and also if you're not already, hit the subscribe button below.